Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Houston Apartment Association's micro webinar series, Expert Exchange, where we address real questions with expert answers. My name is Morgan Taylor. I am the editor of Abode magazine. And today I am interviewing Molly Witt with Vantera Realty. Today is Wednesday, September 15th. And before we get started, I'm going to review some housekeeping items. This series is designed to offer quick 30-minute sessions, but we will stay on as long as necessary to answer your questions. You may ask your questions in the Zoom chat box below. And once we get through all the questions that we curated, we will get to your questions. And if you can't stay on for long, you can find the session on our YouTube channel, HAATV, later today. And you can also email me with any questions that you might have later on at mtaylor@haaonline.org. A quick disclaimer: we are not public health experts nor attorneys. This webinar is provided for general information purposes only and does not constitute legal or professional advice. No member should act on the basis of any material contained in this webinar without obtaining proper legal or professional advice specific to their situation. Please consult with your management company or property owner to address specific issues and to form your own company guidelines. With that out of the way, I want to thank everybody for joining us today and to explain what we are talking about. So the safety of our on-site teams is always our top priority. When a resident gets frustrated or when we enforce policies or pursue proper legal action, it can be unpleasant and stressful. Today, our goal is to provide you with problem resolution skills when dealing with a frustrated or even angry resident. And to talk about this with us today is Molly Witt with Vantera Realty. Molly is an employee experience manager for Vantera Realty. Prior to this role, Molly was a trainer and led many training sessions on this very topic for Vantera. Before that, she worked on site. And Molly is currently working on a bachelor's degree from the University of Houston in Human Resources and Personnel Administration. She's a frequent writer for Abode magazine, and we are really lucky to have her with us today to share her expertise on problem resolution skills. Thank you for joining us today, Molly.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
All right, let's get right into our questions. So let's say a resident comes into the office who is frustrated for any reason and starts like yelling. Yelling and cursing? What do you do in that situation?
That is a really great question. I always try to focus on what they're saying, like the message that they're giving me and not the specific words that they're saying. I find if I focus on the cursing or the volume or the negative aspects, I'm really missing the mark at finding what the problem is and allowing me to then diffuse their anger and start to work towards a resolution that's going to benefit them. So when we can kind of shift the focus from the words and the volume to the message, it really helps make that a lot easier.
Okay, wow, that's a good point, because when someone is in your face yelling at you and cursing at you, it's really easy to focus on that and to get kind of, upset over the fact that they're yelling and cursing. And so your advice is to basically just, as best you can, kind of mute that out and just focus on what exactly they're upset about and what they need or want out of you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Now, with eviction-specific frustrations, what can we do or say when a resident is angry that we are evicting them for non-payment of rent?
One thing that I always did when I was working with evictions and working on site is I always just tried to get to the human relationship. This was probably the most difficult task that I had to deal with when I was working on site, because I'm so empathetic, and it hurt me personally to have to evict somebody, and really kind of taking the focus on, okay, this is what I have to do. This is the contract that we signed, and shift it to, well, these are ways that I can help you. Here are homeless prevention charities that are out there. If your management company offers a layoff contingency program, or a repayment program, or whatever tools you have available, if you can express those to the residents in that situation, and come at the conversation less as a, I'm going to evict you, I'm the big bad landlord, into a, like, human to human. If I were on the other side of the desk, this is how I would want to be treated. Here's some tools that I have. Do you think that you could use these? Can I help get you linked up with these different charity organizations? And that really kind of changes the whole tone of the conversation. And then when we do that, it's going to take the resident that is having that hard time, and it's going to kind of just shed an extra layer of stress off of their shoulders, because then it's not an us versus them. It's a, we're in a team together, and we are going to do the best for this transitional moment in your life.
I love that.
Thank you.
That's really great advice, because, right now, especially, there's going to be tons of residents who are probably going to get evicted for non-payment of rent, and establishing that, hey, this is the legal action that I have to pursue, but here are ways in which I can help you move forward, I think might be really helpful to a lot of people. Now, what if they're mad because of a maintenance issue? For example, the AC hasn't been working and it still isn't working, or we haven't been able to get a maintenance tech in the unit. How can on-site teams diffuse the situation?
I love that you mentioned air conditioner, because there are so many different components with an AC, and typically a resident is just going to say, I've called 10 times and my AC is still not fixed. But it could be so many different things, and just kind of reminding them that our maintenance team is going through the process to eliminate the different, whatever's wrong, so that we can get to the problem, and that we're working on it the best that we can. We are not experts on maintenance. So I never want to come into that conversation as an expert on maintenance, or as a, oh, well, they should have done this, and be real careful that we're not throwing our maintenance team members under the bus. But then on the other hand, like, we all live in Houston. We've all been through August in Houston, and you can offer that empathy and that understanding towards the resident, and let them know that we're working the best that we can to resolve those AC concerns and to make it right for them. In the situation where maintenance hasn't been able to get into the home yet for whatever reason, I think just having that open dialogue, that open line of communication with your residents, is going to make all of the difference in the world.
That's great advice. That is great advice. I think some shared common humanity in any situation is helpful. Okay, well, what if we drop the ball in some sort of way? How can our on-site teams make it up to the resident?
I think the most important thing that we can do when we drop the ball is own it. Everybody is human. Your residents are human, you are human. We can definitely acknowledge the misstep, and confronting it head on is the best way to do so. When we try to hide from it, or pretend like it didn't happen, or brush it under the rug, what we're telling our residents is that I'm going to pretend that I'm being perfect, and your experience in this doesn't matter. It's I'm right and you're wrong. And we want to make sure that we're getting away from that, because our residents are the ones that are paying our paychecks. Without our residents, we do not have a job. And when we own it and we confront it head on, and we say, hey, I messed up, or we messed up, how can I make this right to you? It's going to completely change the way that they're perceiving not only that experience, but future experiences with us down the road.
That's really helpful. Now, how can we respond to residents who either threaten our on-site teams with a gun, or physically have a gun in their hands?
This is a really scary situation. And I would encourage anybody in this situation to use the resources and tools that you have available in that moment. Reach out to your courtesy officer. If your courtesy officer is not there or you don't have one, call the police. But while you're doing that, also work to de-escalate this as best you can in the moment. If you have others in the office, it's, you can reach out to them if needed. Just make sure that you're keeping your safety as a priority, but also working to de-escalate this and remove the threat in the moment. But that's a super scary situation.
It is really scary, and I don't know, how I would handle that situation if it happened to me. What are some how can you de-escalate? Like, what are things you can either say or do to de-escalate that situation?
I think it's going to vary depending on the person that's coming towards you, but just really working towards speaking with the softer side of your voice. If they're demanding something from you, do the best that you can to get it taken care of in that moment. But it's all going to kind of depend on why they're choosing that action and what's the surrounding kind of situation. But I would always say work to put that customer service forward, work to really kind of meet them in that moment. And they're probably, if they're coming in and they're threatening you, they're probably having a very dark time in their life. And there's probably a lot going on. And the more that we can really remember that while we might only see our residents for a few minutes a day, they have this entire life full of stressors that are coming at them every minute, just like we do. And you might be that conversation with you might be the straw that breaks the camel's back, or it might be the reason that they leave and they say, oh, okay, I have faith in humanity again. So I always strive to be the reason that somebody can leave an interaction and be like, okay, I believe in people again. It's good. It's not that bad. And so if you can just kind of try to remember that in these scary moments, I think it will help you be more successful in diffusing and de-escalating the situation.
That's really helpful. And then, with this kind of situation, or maybe there isn't a gun involved yet. There's just, a lot of this resident in particular is just really angry and you're starting to feel a lot of fear. How can we alert our team that we are feeling uncomfortable without offending the resident or being obvious?
That's a great question. I worked out some code words with my team members. And so I can think back to a situation where somebody just came into the office and it kind of made the hair on the back of my neck stand up and I got goosebumps down my arm and I was like, something feels off. So I'd walk across the hallway and the way our offices were set up is kind of, you had one office over here, one office over here, and we looked at each other. And there was a big entry in the middle, but if I raised my voice, they could hear me on the other side. And I can remember saying, oh, I'm going to go get my colleague. She's new. We're in a training exercise. So she was going to shadow me to see how I did that. Is that okay? Or another thing would be code words like, hey, to my maintenance manager, hey, Jose, do you mind coming with me? I know you said you wanted to check the ambient temperature of this apartment. So let's go ahead and check it because I'm going to go unlock the door right now. So those were great tools that I kept kind of in my toolbox when I was working with others. When I was working alone, there's still kind of ways that you can work around it. Like I would pick up the phone and pretend to dial an extension and say, hey, I'm going to go show apartment 101 right now. I should be back in 10 minutes and hang up the phone. The person across the desk for me doesn't know that I just called to the maintenance shop where nobody answered. All they saw was, okay, she picked up the phone. They know she's going to be back in 10 minutes. And that kind of left me feeling a little bit more peacefully and them thinking, okay, somebody's waiting for her. So I feel like those were not obvious ways, but I could definitely make myself feel better and alert others around me that something was going on.
That's really smart. I think those code words are a really great idea in especially if you work in an open concept leasing office, or an office that's similar to what you described, where, you might have offices that you can kind of speak to each other from across a hallway, establishing some sort of like code word or code sentence. Or even just, if you're completely by yourself for whatever reason, picking up the phone and calling your maintenance guy and giving them some sort of like a code word or sentence, so that they can either, be on standby or come into the office with you potentially to kind of just observe the situation and be a second pair of eyes if something escalates. So, throughout all these questions and the things that we've talked about today, I guess the biggest takeaway really is when a resident is frustrated and angry and comes in kind of guns a-blazing, either literally or figuratively, it sounds like the best thing for us to do, or for our on-site teams to do in those situations, is to not get defensive. I think that it's really easy for us to become defensive, especially when we are dealing with 300 residents a day potentially, and they all kind of start to blur together. But it sounds like your advice, Molly, from all of your experience in training, is to really drop the defense and kind of come to a common ground with them, and be understanding of their situation.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I kind of said earlier, they have all of the stressors that we have, and then we're in charge of their home. And their home is where they are coming. They're going to receive the best news of their lives in their home, and they're going to have some of the darkest moments of their lives in their home. And we're ensuring to them that we're going to take care of this. And when something goes wrong, it may or may not be your fault directly, but you're the face of the business, and they're going to come to you. And as long as you can kind of keep it in the back of your head that this brief interaction you're having with them is only a fraction of their day, and it may be stress bubbling up from other areas. They may have had a really bad day at work, come home, the AC is not working, it's August, and then they lose it. They're not losing it on you because you didn't fix their AC. They're just releasing all of that stress and tension from their day. And unfortunately, sometimes we take the brunt of it, but if you can really remember to just human to human, don't get defensive, and work to really de-escalate and diffuse their anger, that's when you're going to have the most success in these types of situations.
Absolutely. And I think, a lot of the times we kind of take their frustrations as if they are blaming us for the situation, when in reality, they're kind of shooting the messenger. But
Mm-hmm.
once you level with them and kind of have that mindset of, okay, even though it seems like they're taking this out on me, if I act like they are not taking this out on they're not blaming me, but they are taking it out on me. And if I can just come to them, meet them with some sort of understanding, um, they'll quickly realize, oh, wait, this isn't her fault, or this isn't his
Absolutely.
fault. We see that a lot, with our resident relations department at HAA. Matilda Luna, she is our resident relations department, and she gets tons of calls a day, with residents who are frustrated with their on-site teams. And I often hear her say things like, "I'm so sorry, I understand, like that must be terrible for you," and they're immediately just like, "Thank you. Thank you for listening." And they feel better just having gotten that out.
Absolutely. I think acknowledgement and understanding how important that is to the problem resolution process is often overlooked. But sometimes they just need you know what, thank you for bringing this to my attention. I'm going to get it taken care of. And I think that goes very, very far when it comes to customer satisfaction and really helping these problem resolutions. Another thing that I've actually found works very well is asking them what they want, but there's a very fine line on that. if they're coming into the office and they're just giving you a laundry list of everything that has gone wrong in their apartment for the last 10 years because they're receiving a $20 renewal increase, really not focusing on well, yeah, your AC broke 7 years ago. What do you want me to do about it? Because that's going to be my first reaction. It's like, what do you want me to do? That was 7 years ago. You renewed 6 times since then. But really kind of focusing on, I understand, and I see you've had a lot of different concerns. We've worked really hard to make these better. It seems like we might have dropped the ball somewhere along the line. What is it that I can do to really kind of make this better for you? What can we do? And they're going to come back and they're probably going to say, let me live here for free. And then you laugh and you make a joke out of it. Like, oh my gosh, I would love to. I promise I would be living here for free if I could. But you know what? Let me see what I can do. And then even if you know you can't do anything in that moment, just kind of putting the conversation on pause and saying, you know what? That's a great suggestion. Let me see what I can do about that. Are you okay if I give you a call in a couple of days and let you know? Can you give me a couple of days to work on this? And you might work on it for a couple of days, or you might get the answer no immediately. Don't give them that no immediately. Just kind of let it simmer for a couple of days and then call them back and say, you know, I was working on this. I was trying to get this done. Unfortunately, this is what I'm able to do. I know it's not what you asked for, but how does this sound to you? And kind of putting it back as, this is what I'm able to do. Is this all right with you? And getting that verbal agreement and letting it just kind of pause is going to be super helpful as well.
That's such great advice. That really is such great advice. Well, that is all the questions that we came up with today. But so go ahead, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them in the chat box. And while I wait on some questions to come in, if any, I do have one question, Molly, that came to me just now. You know, in talking about this session, like we mentioned at the start of it, it can be stressful to deal with angry residents on a daily basis. Do you have any, I mean, when you were working on site or from the training sessions that you led, what are some things that you think would be helpful for people to do at the end of the day to kind of release all that stress and all that anger that they received from the day?
I think that there's a couple of answers in there. First, I like to approach every situation is, if my loved one were on the other side of the table, how would I want them to be treated? And do my best to accomplish that. And then at the end of the day, kind of reflect on my day and think, is there anything that I could have done differently? Look back, and is there anything that in the moment I was a little agitated, maybe I could have handled that differently, and just acknowledging it internally and always looking for ways to grow and improve the service that I'm giving. And then after I leave the office, I think it's really important to have like a decompression period where before you go home and your home life starts, and when the end of your workday starts, like, there is something beautiful about sitting in traffic on 45 with your radio turned all the way up and your favorite song on. And I think that's really important to being able to navigate between the stresses that we deal with at work and then going home and then being our best version of ourselves at home. And I think it works the same whether you're coming into the office or going out, like that kind of window of just, okay, this is my zen, this is my moment, now I'm ready to tackle this.
Yeah, that's such a great point. You really do have to separate, your work life from your home life, because then you just bring it at home and then it's not helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we did have a question that popped in from Dan. He said, we have a resident that seems angry at the world, to put it bluntly. She is very harsh when she asks for maintenance. She belittles maintenance man's work, and she blames him or management for things that happen, like blackouts.
Okay.
How would you handle a person like this? It has gotten so bad that maintenance doesn't want to go to her unit.
Oh, that sounds like a very rough situation. And I think that's a really good question, Dan. I really think that there are some people that are very challenging for us to accomplish anything with. And it sounds like you might have one of those at your community. And I love one of my favorite things about this industry is that we get to wear so many different hats. Like I can be the salesperson, I can be the I want to say mental health professional, but no, but you know, I can be the psychiatrist, I can the counselor, like listen to it. And I think that if you just understand that this person is going to come into your office and this person is going to be on edge, and anticipating that, but still smiling through it and working through it, and even opening those conversations. And hey, how was your day? At first, you might get, and then maybe after that, the more consistent you are with the being nice and they're really trying to have that genuine conversation, the less likely she is to continue this behavior.
That is really hard. That is a really
It
hard
is.
situation to be in. But I think your advice, you know, just not kill them with kindness, but
Yeah, just meet her where she's at. And I think with any relationship, with any person, anywhere, meeting them where they are at is going to be how you grow. You can't, you know, you got to kind of know what she's bringing and know the energy that she's going to bring to the conversation. And you don't necessarily want to match that energy, but just kind of like knock it off balance with positive energy and really try to be genuine and to get to know her. Because you know what, she could just have had a really bad experience somewhere else. She could be really jaded from the last apartment she lived in. She could have had maintenance at a previous resident. Go into her apartment and, you know, steal something or something. And maybe she's carrying that with her. And I think if we can meet her and genuinely let her know that we are not the bad experiences that she's had in the past, then that would definitely work to kind of start that relationship off fresh again.
absolutely. He says thank you.
Yeah, I think, Dan, just the more you continue and the more you smile and really try that's all you can do. And at the end of the day, when you go home, if you knew I gave my best service, my best customer service to this resident, then you don't have anything weighing you down at night and you can go at it the next day and just try it again. That's a
Exactly.
really great question. And those are hard situations.
Those are hard. And I'm sure at every property there's one person who's like that.
Yeah.
But all right, well, I guess that is it for questions today. Thank you, Molly, so much again for doing this with us. You're amazing, and
Thank you. It's
you
my
can,
honor.
Molly writes for Abode quite often, so be sure to check out the Abode magazine for her further expertise.
Thank you.
And you can join us next time for another expert exchange on the third Wednesday in October. And until then, make it a great day. Bye, guys.